Before we get into our express action, let me show you the markets now. The Dow has given up quite a bit of its gains. It was up 350 odd points. Now it's up just 238 points. Volume remains moderate, 271 million shares. The S&P also losing traction. I wouldn't say that they are evaporating. FANG is still holding good to its number, but the rest of them are starting to just ease off the best of the day. And so to Express Extra, where today we are all about automobiles, the good and the bad. Mitsubishi is now the latest to announce it's firing, or at least ousting, Carlos Ghosn as chairman. It follows his arrest last week over allegations of claims of misconduct. It was Nissan that started those proceedings. Now to Tokyo, where we get the latest on the developments for Carlos Ghosn.
A week after the arrest of Carlos Ghosn, his downfall continues to embroil Japan. Mitsubishi Motors ousted him as chairman in a special board meeting today, joining Nissan in removing the man once credited with steering both companies from the brink of bankruptcy. Mitsubishi, the smallest and newest member of a three-way alliance that includes Renault, said they voted unanimously to ouster Ghosn because he had already, quote, lost the confidence of Nissan and was not in a position to fulfill his responsibilities. Ghosn remains in a detention center in the outskirts of Tokyo since last Monday, when prosecutors arrested him for alleged financial misconduct, including underreporting his salary. According to Japanese law, he can be held without being formally charged for up to 20 days. CNN has reached out to Ghosn's lawyer, who has not responded. There have been local media reports that Ghosn is denying the allegations. The moves by Nissan and Mitsubishi are in stark contrast to that of Renault, which decided to keep Ghosn at the helm, citing lack of evidence, and appointed an interim caretaker instead. The crisis now involves the finance and economic ministers of France and Japan, both keen to protect emblems of industry in both countries. That's the latest from Tokyo. I'm Claudia Joji.
Okay, so the Ghosn scandal is a major headache for all the companies of which he was leading, and the brands he managed. Jose Hernandez is with me, crisis management expert, guru, written books on the subject. Your fundamental point is that scandals will happen and misdeeds will take place, but they don't need to wreck your business.
They don't, but unfortunately with superstar managers, we tend to let our guard down. And when we let our guard down, governance and compliance and control failures result. And that is at the core of what we're trying to, that's why the scandal is such a shock, such an issue, and so difficult to understand. And also...
Well, I think we can agree, he was a superstar CEO. I mean, nobody else, as far as I know, has ever run three motor companies at the same time and merged them and done all sorts of things. So what went wrong?
What went wrong is we still don't know, and that's actually the fundamental problem. He's lost today his chairmanship of Mitsubishi. He's lost the chairmanship of Nissan, and we still don't have the full facts. 44 million apparently has gone missing. There's financial disclosure problems. So we have the problem that the individual is being accused of misconduct, but we're not sure, and then we have legal problems.
But you will know as well as I do that he will claim it was authorized, the money was for houses that he had to have, you know, that these were legitimate business expenses that the company had always agreed. What do you do in that situation as a company?
Well, then the full problem is disclosure. How did we disclose what these benefits were and how they were gotten? But it may be that he's entirely right, that they were approved, they were audited, they were reviewed, it's in the contract, but perhaps not disclosed.
But you're saying in the case of superstars, we tend to get lax in all the treatment of their expenses and the...
Yeah, we love them for what they do. We love how they create markets. We love how they turn Nissan around. We love that they were running 500,000 employees. So, but then what happens is sometimes we turn a blind eye. Sometimes they break rules, and then, you know, there's a lot of willful blindness that then comes with it.
What other cases can you think of that make this same point? I mean, arguably, we could say Martin Sorrell at WPP.
Yeah.
We could say Winkelhorn at VW,
yeah,
and the whole scandal over there. Which ones come to your mind?
Yeah, perhaps FIFA, but it's not a public company. But you know what? Sepp Blatter would be another one. But there was no, the issue was disclosure. But here we have the problem that he's been arrested first, and there's no investigation, so there's no real facts. So we're on uncharted territory right now.
You were talking to me earlier about Daimler and the issues with Daimler. I mean, corporate crises, reputational crises because of CEOs. What does the company do in those situations?
You got to restore trust and credibility. Trust within the troops, the 500,000 employees, credibility in the markets, making sure that you actually lend extra assurances that this cannot happen again. So we have to move in this whole movement of trust, implement more controls, but we got to start with the facts, and we are far from knowing all the facts.
Right, but this idea that something's always going to happen, let's forget about this case. But talk to me about the sort of environment where you've got a superstar executive,
Yes.
who is omnipotent in terms of how they're running themselves or their department. What do you as a chief exec, or if you're the chief exec, what does the chairman or the board, what do you do?
Keep an extra eye on them, which is look at your expenses. Nothing shows somebody's moral integrity and how they handle assets by looking at their expense report. How do they do the things that they do? Just having an extra close watch, extra care, but what happens is exactly the opposite. We love them for bending rules. We love them for, turning things into new markets. And unfortunately, this is the unintended consequences when it goes too far.
You want to look at my expenses?
Yeah, I will. We will find a cup of coffee like you just had it. And I noticed that you paid for it yourself this morning. And it starts with little things like that. Who pays for your bills? And after a while, people forget you're just entrusted with this position of authority.
I read a very good article this morning that said, the problem is that the line between my pocket and the company's becomes ever so blurred.
It becomes blurred. And then before you know it, it says it's all mine. And you lose touch with reality.
Okay. Good to see you, sir.
Pleasure, sir.
That's a very sobering reference. And he wouldn't even take a cup of coffee himself. I tried out of my own pocket to buy him a cup of coffee. The LA Auto Show is underway. Peter Valdez Davina is watching over that, joins me now. Before we talk about LA and what's happening over there, briefly, the GM closures, does it come as a surprise to you, Peter?
I have to say these did. I mean, look, I knew GM, we all knew GM was going through a restructuring. They've been offering their employees buyouts, so not surprising things like this were happening. But when they're closing plants like, Lordstown, Hamtramck, these are very famous, and Oshawa, these are famous GM plants, been part of their communities for a long time. And yeah, it's always surprising to see something like that, just for companies to say, and these are hard decisions to make, look, we're going to close these down. We're going to stop making cars here.
Okay, so the LA Auto Show and what's happening in Los Angeles. Obviously, the GM announcement creates somewhat of a cloud over that, but I'm guessing that all the talk is once again about autonomous vehicles and foreign competition.
Yes, and one of the things GM says it's restructuring to do is to shift its focus to electric cars, autonomous vehicles, where the future is. We're going to see a lot of that here in LA. A company called Rivian is unveiling a startup. One of GM's new competitors is unveiling a new pickup truck, all-electric pickup truck with a 400-mile range here at the LA show. But there's a lot of other stuff going on, too. Jeep is expected to unveil a new pickup truck as well. Again, more competition in that core part of the American car market. And Porsche is unveiling an all-new 911. Very few companies have a direct competitor to a car like that, an iconic sports car. So a new generation of the 911 is always big news.
And you're one of the fortunate parts about your job is you get to try out new cars. What have you been trying out?
Well, one of the cars that I've tried out recently is the new Genesis G70, for example, from a new luxury brand from Hyundai. A direct competitor to cars like the the BMW 3 Series. I have to say, from Hyundai, this is a really excellent luxury car that's quite good, performs really well, and is a credible competitor to European luxury cars. So that car was a big surprise for me.
And what about Waymo?
Oh, well, actually, I was recently talking to the CEO of Waymo, John Krafchick, who used to head Hyundai here in the United States. I was surprised when he took the role leading Waymo, because this was a guy that I knew loved cars and loves to drive. Now he's leading so now he's doing something else.
Okay, finally, if we look at the motor industry at the moment, you've got the GM announcement, you've got the background situation, you've got the massive change, you've got the Carlos Ghosn problems with Nissan, Mitsubishi and Renault. Is the industry in good shape?
Look, overall, I think the industry is in fairly good shape. Auto sales are expected to be down, but they've been up. And a lot of companies like GM are, frankly, making the right moves towards autonomous electric vehicles. Ironically, Nissan was one of the leaders in autonomous and electric vehicles as well under Carlos Ghosn. Now, these companies have some challenges, and we're going to have to see how Nissan gets through this. But we have to remember, too, in terms of GM, that there's nothing wrong that GM is making these changes. It's not that GM is particularly suffering. They're looking ahead to the future and making difficult decisions now so they don't have to make them later.
All right, Peter, thank you. Enjoy the LA Auto Show, and we'll talk to you more when we see the results of that auto show. And that is the Express and Express Extra for today. Just to show you the markets as we leave you. General Motors, by the way, which is Rich's been talking about, GM is now up 5% in the market. One stock to keep an eye on, Campbell's Soup, or Campbell's, is now down 3%. The stock halted trading, roughly an hour or two ago over moves within the board management. And that is the Express. We'll have Cressway's business for you in just 2 hours and change from now. The market is up. The issue is whether it is going to hold its gains. Good to see.
Welcome back.
Good to see you, sir. Here is the Dow. There's the market. Whatever you're up to the hours ahead, I hope it's profitable.